One thing that was surprising was how close the court came to actually striking down the entire law. There were 4 justices who were very clearly opposed to the whole law on the basis that the individual mandate to buy health insurance was unconstitutional, and therefore the rest of the provisions in the law couldn't stand. Other provisions like the requirements for states to expand their Medicaid program raised questions, and the whole effect was that they supported throwing the entire law out. Chief Justice Roberts, cast the decisive vote to save the law based on his interpretation that the individual mandate could be viewed as a tax and therefore within the taxing power of the federal government, and that too was a bit of a surprise. That was not a leading argument that had been made in the actual hearings before the court. It was not something that the Obama administration had emphasized in its view of the law as a mandate. In fact, many in the administration had argued that it wasn't a tax. The other thing that was surprising to many legal experts was the court overturning the broad expansion of Medicaid in the law linked to all of the Medicaid funds that states are receiving. This is something that Congress has typically done in the past. They've said it's sort of a take it or leave it offer. If you, state, want all of the federal matching funds for all of your Medicaid beneficiaries, for your existing programs, as well as the new populations that we want you to cover, you have to take everything. The court said that was too coercive on the states, and that was by a vote of 7-2. It wasn't just a typical liberal conservative split. They said that states had to be given the option of just doing an incremental expansion, just doing the full expansion, but that the law included, or just keeping their program as is. So that gives states a lot more flexibility in how they deal with expanding their Medicaid program than people were expecting as well. So not what a lot of the legal experts were thinking going into the decision. One important implication is that the bulk of the law is going to be implemented as enacted. So at least for now, at least under the current administration, plans are going forward for implementing the new coverage expansions by 2014, by working on the new insurance exchanges so that people can buy health insurance even if they don't get coverage through their job through options that aren't available today. Work is going ahead on states expanding their Medicaid programs, but there are some real questions still ahead. One big question is, how well is implementation going to go? These are all unprecedented activities, unprecedented new work in getting states and the federal government information systems to work together, unprecedented new work in getting these insurance exchanges up and running, unprecedented expansions of the Medicaid program, and doing that all between now and up and running in 2014 effectively means that these programs need to be in place by the latter part of 2013, and that's just over a year from now. That's a lot of work to be done. A lot of it depends not just on the federal government but on the states as well, and so that's where some of the questions are coming in. The election in November is going to be very important for the future of the Affordable Care Act. The President has made clear that he stands by this as his signature legislative achievement. So if he's reelected, any efforts to significantly modify the law are going to be, if not blocked in Congress, vetoed by the President. So if there's a Democratic victory, that means we'll largely keep on course with implementation of the law. It does leave open a lot of questions about just how well all of these provisions can be implemented by 2014, especially since some states don't really want to go along with the big expansions, and maybe not even some of the more core provisions like the insurance exchanges. If the Republicans win, they have promised overturning the law. It's been a priority for both Republican members of Congress in a very unified way, and Governor Romney in his presidential campaign. I think they may find when it comes to actually taking steps to overturn the law, it'll be a little bit complicated. Many of the provisions can go the same way they came through a budget process in the Senate called reconciliation, which basically means you only need 50 votes plus one to overturn a provision, but that only applies to provisions of the law that have major financial or significant federal financial consequences. So that would include things like the individual mandate, which is not very popular. It would probably include things like the expansions of the Medicaid program. So those are some very important changes. On the other hand, the provisions in the law that restrict insurance companies' ability to charge people more based on pre-existing conditions and restrict who they offer insurance to, the so-called guaranteed issue and community rating insurance market reforms, those are the most popular provisions of the law, and Governor Romney has said that he supports methods for making it easier for people who stay enrolled in coverage but lose their job or decide they want to get coverage on their own because it's less expensive to be able to do so regardless of pre-existing conditions. Both sides need steps to try to keep costs down in Medicare and our other entitlement programs, and a big part of the law was imposing some tighter pricing in the Medicare program. While that's not very popular, it's coming at a time when the country is facing the fiscal cliff and is going to need to find ways to bring down entitlement spending. So that provision too may not be easy just to drop. In many of the Republican budget proposals, those savings from Medicare are used to make Medicare more solvent for the future and therefore make it possible to bring down taxes more in the future. So I don't think all these provisions are going to go away. I think we're looking at whoever wins the election, some very important further issues to deal with on healthcare reform, and in some ways, regardless of who wins, we're going to be dealing with the same problems.